The White House this morning has been pretty quiet on this release. They're really waiting for details about who is coming out of Gaza. They did say that they do not expect any Americans to be released today. They are hopeful that some will be released in this group of 50 that is expected to be coming, over the next couple days.
So, Megan, what is the White House's, I guess, most recent talking points in terms of how they expect this to play out, and just in terms of the overall conflict in Israel? How do they expect it to play out? Do they have a preferred timetable, preferred outcome? What's their messaging been recently?
Sure. Well, I can't speak for what they're hoping for, but their messaging is that, we want the hostages out. They're focused on the Americans, but really all the hostages, primarily getting them out safely as quickly as possible. President Biden was very personally involved in this negotiation over the course of the last several weeks. So they are, playing it very close to the vest, being very quiet this morning as far as, not doing any sort of victory dance as these people are released very slowly.
It's about the release of hostages, very, very important, but it's also about getting some humanitarian assistance across to those Palestinians in the Gaza Strip who need it. And there's always been, or it feels like that there's certainly been pushback from Israel, concerns it was going to go to Hamas, any kind of aid. Where are we on that? Because the president has talked specifically that this entire deal, everything has to be implemented.
Right. It's a very, very delicate situation that they're going through, enduring right now. Biden has also been focused on getting humanitarian aid to Gaza. As you said, the people there have, are struggling to meet basic needs. And, aid started to trickle in a few weeks ago, and then maybe in sort of larger amounts. But part of this, release is obviously the pausing in conflict and in bombing so that they can get more aid and more support for the Palestinians. That's important, I think, morally, but also politically for the president. So it's something that they've been focused on. It's a very delicate dance.
So, Megan, give us a sense of just in general, what kind of role is Washington, is the White House trying to play here as this conflict continues to unfold here? How aggressive is it being? Is it pressuring both sides? Kind of what's their playbook right here?
I'm not sure how much influence the White House really has over Hamas, right? So they're working through the Qataris to facilitate, discussion and not necessarily a ceasefire, but sort of like you said, humanitarian aid in and getting the hostages out. It's politically very, very difficult for the White House, for the United States in general, to sort of walk a fine line between calling for an end to conflict, but also supporting Israel's right to defend itself.
Megan, I'm curious, as we kicked off this conversation, Paul and I, with you, you said no Americans in this first round, although they're hoping, I guess, in subsequent days that we will see some Americans. I'm just curious what you're hearing on the optics or the political optics in terms of who's coming out, when, and how many, and I can only imagine the conversations that are going on.
Right. Well, I think, a lot of Americans were hopeful that the girl Abigail, who turns 4 years old today, would have been released. The optics of that would have been great for the United States. I think the president is just really focused on getting hostages out, and primarily the Americans. They're not putting too much pressure on anyone publicly to make that happen in the short term. We believe, I guess, there are 10 Americans. Abigail, the young girl, and 2 women, and then, a few men. So I don't know that they're expecting that those men, for example, would be released anytime soon.
All right, Megan, any sense, just real quick, next steps here? Is it just more hostages? Because we're seeing video of this initial group of 24 coming out now.
Right. So I think that it's, I'm sorry, the Qataris had reported that some Palestinians had been released in exchange for this today already. I don't know that we have that confirmed, but we did report that Qatar said that. So that, I think, is sort of, part of this very delicate process, the aid coming in, the Palestinians being released, and hopefully, another group of hostages are released again tomorrow. And we kind of keep this process going as long as possible.
Hey, one last question. President Biden and his team, is everybody kind of on the same page when it comes to the way forward? Or I wonder if there's a lot of debate going on. You know, Paul and I were talking about a younger generation in terms of Palestine or the Palestinians versus Israel. There's some different thinking among a younger generation about I don't know whether it's right to say who may be in the right here, but it's not so black and white, let's put it that way, among a younger generation. I'm just curious what you're hearing from within the White House.
Right. Well, I think it's just exactly as you said. People have, a different opinion on how things should be approached on this very long and complicated conflict. And that was sort of what I was alluding to when I said that the president is facing, political challenges as well as moral challenges for getting aid to the Palestinians in Gaza, for getting, sort of end the conflict there, but also supporting Israel. It's just a really, really difficult balancing act for the president, and that would stand within his administration as well.